Prospects for South Africa are looking up, and this news just breaking. The governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Letsetja Kganyago, has been appointed as the chairman of the International Monetary Fund and Financial Committee.
The IMFC is the policy advisory committee of the Board of Governors of the International Monetary Fund. Our correspondent in New York is Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Let's cross to him now and find out a little bit more about this appointment. Sherwin, thanks for joining us. What is this committee? Let's start there.
Peter, it's essentially the top advisory structure to the Board of Governors that is made up of each and every member state to the IMF, the 183 countries that are members of the IMF. They are part of the Board of Governors. Each has two members. For example, in South Africa, for example, you have the Finance Minister and the Reserve Bank Governor. Now, Letsetja Kganyago has been appointed to head the International Monetary and Financial Committee of the IMF, which essentially provides strategic guidance on how to deal with some of the financial concerns that might emerge in the world. This is a structure that wants to mitigate problems, that comes up with solutions. So, for example, Peter, during the beginning of the 2007 global recession, the IMFC played a very central role in getting countries to change their macroeconomic policy so as to exit what was a very deep recession. And I always say this, having attended a number of the IMF spring and autumn meetings, there are literally three people that are faces of those meetings. You have the World Bank President, you have the IMF Managing Director, Christine Lagarde, and you have the IMFC Chair, who will now be South Africa's Reserve Bank Governor.
I mean, it sounds like a huge honour. What does it mean for him personally, and perhaps also us as South Africa? Well, from a southern perspective, there are only 3 African countries on the IMFC structure. 24 countries in total, 3 from Africa: Algeria, Cameroon and South Africa. It was previously held by the Reserve Bank Governor of Mexico, and before that, the face of the IMFC was the former Finance Minister of Singapore. This really is a huge accolade for South Africa, because he really, as I said before, becomes the face of what really journalists are seeking, where journalists go to find answers in terms of what the IMF is doing, what this advisory board is saying in terms of where countries should go, how they should be fiscally responsible in terms of dealing with the world's ills. And as you know, the exit from that financial deep recession that started in 2007 has been very slow for a number of countries. Yes, the developed world we're seeing an uptick, but this is a structure, Peter, that really does give guidance to the entire membership of the IMF. So a very critical appointment, and I think no better an appointment than in South Africa's Reserve Bank Governor. So how busy is this job? I mean, are we in fear or in danger of losing the governor?
I think as a Reserve Bank Governor, you're busy anyway. So what's another chairmanship of an international advisory committee? Look, this is a committee that meets during the annual meetings of the IMF. There are 2 of those every year, and this is a structure that then produces a communique that really becomes the talking point for the next 6 months. So if they meet, for example, in April, that'll be the first meeting. That's the spring meeting in Washington this year. This structure then produces a communique, a very detailed communique about what's going on in different parts of the world and what countries need to do. So if China's growing at 6.9%, what does that mean for the rest of the economy? Remember, that's a slowdown for China. So how will that impact, for example, commodity demands and price increases and that kind of thing? So that's kind of where that structure comes in. And then they go quiet for another 6 months, and then they come back in August, October for the autumn meeting of the IMF World Bank, and they then meet again and then issue another detailed communique about what the country should do for the next 6 months. So he'll have a few extra meetings, I imagine, and certainly as chair, and also, as I said, one of 3 faces that will do major press conferences that will be sought after in terms of opinions. But remember, he won't be speaking there as South Africa's Reserve Bank Governor. He'll be speaking as chair of the IMFC.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Sherwin, thanks very much indeed. That was Sherwin Bryce-Pease talking to us from New York, and the great news there, our Reserve Bank Governor Kganyago has been appointed, Letsetja Kganyago, the chair of the International Monetary Fund Committee, and we'll hear lots more about that for sure in the coming days. At the same time, this afternoon, the governor